Hi, I'm Amy and I'm at home, and today I'm making a roasted tomato and Gruyere tart. You are not going to believe how easy this is. Start with tomatoes, of course, and I've got two different kinds, yellow and red, and I bought them both in the supermarket. So you can find these. I'm slicing my tomatoes pretty thinly, and what I want to do first is make sure I can get as much moisture out of these tomatoes as possible because they will cook a whole lot more evenly. So that's the yellow one. And then I love these tomatoes on the vine. I just think they are so tasty and so pretty, and you can find them year round. And by the way, when I slice my tomatoes, I like to slice them, it's called on the equator. It's like horizontally this way. I think it's just a really pretty cross section, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It looks like that. You can see, oh, that's a bad one. But you can see the whole tomato, and I think that's really pretty as opposed to the other way where you don't really see much. I'll slice this one just so you can see. But when you slice it that way, it's just kind of like a weird looking look. And it's all about look for me. I mean, you know, of course you want your food to taste good, but I love the way food looks. That's the food stylist in me. So I'm always going for something pretty. So here are all of my sliced tomatoes, and I have a clean dish towel. And all I'm gonna do is just lay these out in an even layer. Try not to manhandle my tomatoes.
They're so precious.
I know, and there we go. So all these need to do is just kind of dry out and hang out for a little bit. I'll sprinkle a little salt on too, and salt nudges the moisture out. So I think this is good. All right, I didn't cut these all the way through. But this is a perfect amount of tomato for my tart. I'm gonna sprinkle some salt on. And what I'm gonna do is sort of gently roll this.
Tomato on the loose.
Uh-oh. And just set that aside. And I'm gonna put all of this aside while I roll out my crust. Now you can easily use a store-bought crust, and I think you know what I'm talking about. You know those, I don't know what I think you can buy this anywhere now, but it's like, it comes in a tube and you can roll it out. I think you can get it at Trader Joe's and like in any store.
Like Pillsbury dough?
Pillsbury, yeah.
Jesus
Pillsbury
Christ.
I never buy it. That's why I don't really know what it is. But you can buy it. But I make my own, and I'm going to put the recipe in with my recipe when I post this later on. And I love this dough recipe. It's actually my pie crust without the sugar, and it's just sort of tried and true, super easy, and it just makes everything taste better. So I have here a French rolling pin, and it is a little bit bigger in the middle. It's really easy to use. Because it's smaller on the ends, it just keeps everything sort of balanced when I'm rolling. The most important thing about rolling dough is to just keep it in an even thickness. And you want to just kind of pick it up and toss it around a little bit. I've got some flour. This is my vintage flour shaker. I love it. And a lot of times when I'm baking, I don't like to add extra flour. This is one of those times it's okay to do. This is a pretty rustic tart, so you can't really mess it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, honestly, the thing that I love about cooking at home is nothing's ever perfect. You know, you're cooking out of love and you're making food for your friends and family, so I don't know. I mean, it can be imperfect. My pie crust is probably going to be imperfect for this tart just because I'm a little bit of a messy cook, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so here is my pie crust. My tart crust, I should say.
How do you know when it's thin enough?
You know, you want it to be about 1/8 of an inch thin, between 1/8 and 1/16, and it's really kind of hard. It's not like you're going to get ruler out to measure it.
I probably would.
It takes a little.
Oh, horrible cook.
It takes a little. No, you're not. You're a great cook. It takes a little practice, but basically, what you want is to have it to be able to get into the whole tart pan. So I have a tart pan with a removable bottom, and you don't have to use this. Look how old and beat up this is. I love it that way. You don't have to use this. You could use a pie plate. You could use a baking dish. You can really use whatever you want. But here's a trick to get your dough into your tart pan. Fold it in half, and you have to do this really fast. And then fold it in quarters.
Oh, I'm so stressed out.
And then place it kind of on the corner here, and then unfold it. And the reason why I'm saying you have to fold it, you have to do this really fast, is because I had my dough chilling in the refrigerator, and it is now super, super soft. So what I might do if I wasn't actually live doing this video is kind of prepare my tart and then just stick it back in the fridge. You don't really have to. I mean, it'll kind of firm up a little bit better when it bakes. What I'm doing now is sort of pressing on the edges, and I'm taking out all this extra. And what that does is it makes for a really kind of consistent edge, and I love that. So the next thing I'm going to do is prick a little holes all over the bottom. This is called docking. It's an actual term. It's a baking term. And as this bakes, a little bit of steam will come out, and it'll keep the whole bottom of the tart kind of flat. And I know this from experience because I've forgotten to do this before, and I'll go and check on my tart, and it's like poofed up in the middle, and then I have to pat it back down, and it's like so silly. So here's the tart. And a lot of times when you're baking, you need to do something called blind baking, where you cook the actual dough a little bit first to set it up. And for this, you really don't need to do that. Right now, I have some Dijon mustard, and I'm just spreading it into the bottom of my tart. And this actually does two things. Of course, it's great flavor. It's sort of like the secret ingredient to this recipe, because no one really knows it's mustard by the time it's cooked. It just has this great flavor. But the other thing that it does is it sort of protects the crust from all of the ingredients. So I'm putting in about 2 cups of Gruyere cheese. I actually want to reserve a little bit for the top. And it keeps the Gruyere from kind of melting into the crust as it cooks. And the same with the tomatoes. So here are the tomatoes, and I'm just going to arrange them, trying to get the red ones and the yellow ones kind of intertwined. This is where I'm not that good. I try so hard, but I just like a rustic look, so I just kind of put them all over.
You're not going to make a tomato tart garden?
I'm not making a tomato tart garden, and I'm not, a lot of times when I make this recipe, and I've been making this for years, a lot of times I will kind of make circles and circles and overlap. And for some reason, I've sort of gotten bored with that. And I just like to just sort of scatter it all around. I think it's really pretty this way. It really bakes up nice and beautifully. And so that's what I'm going for today. But you know what? You can do whatever you want, because this is your tart. So that's what this looks like. I'm gonna do that. I feel like I have more red popping up. Let me see if I can fix that.
Oh, after you're saying just do it randomly and have fun with it. Going back on your word.
I think that looks pretty good.
It does.
It's true. I totally went back on my word. So now I'm going to sprinkle the rest of my cheese on top. I just like a tiny bit of cheese, not a whole lot, because there's a lot of cheese in here. And then I'm gonna drizzle a little olive oil. And if you want, you can brush it on and be very precise. I think this works fine. It's about a tablespoon. And I'm going to sprinkle some flaky salt. I love Maldon salt. It's really a great salt for cooking, for finishing. You always want to use kosher salt when you're actually cooking. And you want to use a flaky sea salt when you're finishing your dish. And then I might put a little salt on after this too. So I am using thyme. This is fresh thyme, and I'm just pulling some thyme leaves off, but I'm also putting some thyme sprigs on. I just love the look of this, and I'm gonna add some more thyme when I'm finished. And then the last but not least is folding over the dough right onto the actual tart. And this is what kind of seals the deal and makes this so incredibly delicious. And by the way, I did not butter my tart pan because it's non-stick. If you have a non-stick pan, you really don't have to. You can just for safety, because you don't want this to stick, but I find it's not necessary at all. So I'm almost done with this. I'm not putting anything on the edge of my crust. I'm just gonna put it in just like that. I love the rusticness of this. So I have a 400-degree oven preheating. I'm gonna pop this in for about 30 minutes, and you're gonna have to sit and wait with me for 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I made one in advance. I made this one this morning, and as my lovely daughter Katie told me, this isn't your prettiest tart, Mom.
It tastes good though. Well, I think it's gonna taste good.
It's gonna taste great. Sometimes they're just not that pretty. I don't know why, but it's a really delicious recipe. I actually think it's beautiful. Whenever you're making anything,
it looks great.
Whenever you're making something homemade, it's always delicious and it's always beautiful, because I know this is so cheesy, but it's made with so much love. I know you're all baking with love, especially right now. I always do. So I'm cutting into this, and let me show you what this looks like. You can see, actually this is a better view. You can see the layer of the pastry, and then you can see the cheese, and then the tomatoes. You can't see the mustard at all. So when people are like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, it's the mustard. In terms of cheese, you can use any cheese you want. Cheddar would go great with this, even a brie. So experiment if you don't want to use Gruyere, which is kind of like a Swiss. Okay, Katie, this one's yours. This one's mine. Let's have a.
Oh God, can I eat and film at the same time?
To give it a try.
Yeah. Could you use like asparagus or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't have to use tomatoes. You could use asparagus, zucchini, and you don't have to cook it first. It would be absolutely delicious. And you can use any herb. I feel like, we're getting into summer and basil season. I put basil on this tart so many times, but for some reason I really loved fresh thyme, and I have fresh thyme in my garden, so I'm going with thyme. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna post the recipe very shortly today. I hope to see you soon, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.